The massive glass halls of the Galactic Military Academy stretched as far as the eye could see, filled with creatures that looked like they came straight out of humanity's worst nightmares. Katie Walsh walked through these halls feeling completely out of place. Her standard-issue Academy uniform looked pathetic next to the natural armor and weapons surrounding her. The preparation chamber was like stepping into an alien zoo designed by someone with a twisted sense of humor. Every species present had been bred for war over countless generations. Their bodies were living weapons that could tear through steel and survive in the vacuum of space. Katie watched as Grixtal, the Korthak representative, ran his razor-sharp claws along a metal beam. The sound was like fingernails on a chalkboard, but infinitely more terrifying. Each claw left deep gouges in the reinforced metal that was supposed to be indestructible. His reptilian skin shifted colors as he moved, providing natural camouflage that made him nearly invisible against different backgrounds. Standing 7 feet tall with muscles that rippled beneath his scales, Grixtal looked like evolution had specifically designed him to kill things efficiently. The Korthak weren't the only nightmare fuel in the room. Hive Death, the insectoid Zephyrian, buzzed around the chamber testing his 4 wings. Each wing beat created a sound like a helicopter, but faster and more menacing. His compound eyes could see in spectrums that most species couldn't even imagine, and his natural exoskeleton was harder than most manufactured armor. When he moved, it was with the jerky, unpredictable motions of something that had never known what it meant to be prey. Then there was Sharp Edge, the crystalline Vorthian warrior. His entire body looked like it had been carved from living diamond, reflecting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Energy crackled between his fingers as he casually formed and dismissed energy blades. Each blade hummed with power that could cut through almost any material known to galactic science. The Vorthians had evolved on a world where everything tried to kill everything else, and their bodies showed it. Katie looked down at herself and almost laughed. 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing maybe 140 pounds, soaking wet, with no visible weapons or armor. Her brown hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and her green eyes held no obvious enhancements. She looked like she belonged in a library, not on a battlefield with creatures that could literally tear her apart with their bare hands. The other cadets in the chamber gave her looks that ranged from confusion to outright pity. Some of the more predatory species looked at her like she was lunch that had wandered into the wrong room. The ambient chatter in dozens of alien languages seemed to focus on the small human, who clearly didn't belong. When the announcement came for volunteers for the Apex trial, the chamber fell silent. This wasn't just any combat test. The Apex trial was reserved for the absolute elite, the top 0.1% of warriors in the galaxy. It was a 3-on-1 combat scenario designed to push the limits of even the most capable fighters. The casualty rate spoke for itself. Katie raised her hand without hesitation. The silence that followed was deafening. Then came the laughter. Not malicious exactly, but the kind of laughter reserved for someone who had just done something so absurd that you couldn't help but be amused. Several species that didn't even have facial expressions managed to convey amusement through body language. The Korthak instructor, a massive specimen even by his species standards, looked at Katie with something resembling concern. His translator device crackled to life with a voice like grinding stone. The statistics he rattled off weren't meant to scare her away. Exactly, but to make sure she understood what she was volunteering for. 97% casualty rate. Most participants required immediate medical intervention. Some didn't survive even with the Academy's advanced medical technology. Katie's response cut through the chamber like a blade. 2 simple words that somehow carried more weight than all the posturing and displays of natural weaponry around her. She wasn't boasting or trying to impress anyone. She was simply stating a fact, as if volunteering for almost certain death was the most natural thing in the world. The alien instructors exchanged glances that didn't require translation. They were looking at either the bravest or most foolish cadet they had ever encountered, and none of them were entirely sure which. The news traveled faster than light-speed communications through the Academy corridors. Within minutes, every cadet instructor and support staff member knew about the human who had volunteered for the Apex trial. The reaction was immediate and universal. Disbelief followed quickly by amusement. Betting pools sprouted up in every dormitory, mess hall, and training facility. The aliens weren't even betting on whether Katie would survive. That outcome seemed so obvious it wasn't worth wagering on. Instead, they were placing bets on how many seconds she would last. The most optimistic estimates gave her maybe 30 seconds before complete incapacitation. The pessimists were betting on single digits. The Korthak cadets gathered around holographic displays, analyzing human combat footage with the detached interest of scientists studying a particularly slow insect. They point out obvious weaknesses: the lack of natural armor, the absence of claws or fangs, the relatively slow movement speed. To their reptilian eyes, humans move like they were stuck in thick mud. Their discussion centered around whether Grixtal would bother using his claws or simply rely on brute force to end things quickly. The Zephyrians buzzed with excitement as they reviewed aerial combat scenarios. Hybdetha's compound eyes processed multiple video feeds simultaneously, cataloging human movement patterns and identifying obvious blind spots. His fellow insects clicked and chirped in what passed for laughter among their kind. They couldn't understand how a species that couldn't even fly had managed to develop space travel, let alone qualify for the Academy. The Vorthians approached the analysis with crystalline precision, breaking down human combat techniques into mathematical formulas. Sharp-Edge ran probability calculations that showed a 99.8% chance of human defeat within the first minute of combat. The remaining 0.2% was allocated to the possibility of equipment malfunction rather than any realistic chance of human victory. Back on Earth, Commander James Mitchell sat in a secure observation room, watching the alien preparations through quantum-link cameras. His weathered face showed no emotion as he listened to the translation's software-convert alien commentary into English. Every dismissive comment, every casual prediction of Katie's defeat, every assumption about human weakness was cataloged and filed away. Mitchell knew something the aliens didn't. Katie Walsh wasn't just another Academy cadet who had gotten lucky in the selection process. Her file told a story that would have given the alien warriors pause if they had bothered to look beyond surface appearances. Her father had served with the Special Air Service in conflicts across 3 continents. Her mother was a former Royal Marine who had earned commendations in operations that were still classified decades later. Katie had grown up hearing bedtime stories about Rorke's Drift, where 150 British soldiers held off 4,000 Zulu warriors. She knew the tale of Thermopylae by heart, could recite the names of the 300 Spartans who chose death over retreat. Her childhood games weren't typical playground activities. They were tactical exercises disguised as family fun, teaching her to think like a warrior from the moment she could walk. While her alien opponents spent their preparation time in displays of raw power and intimidation, Katie sat alone in her assigned chamber. To any observer, she looked like she was simply resting, maybe even meditating. Her eyes were closed, her breathing was steady, and her hands rested loosely in her lap. But Katie's mind was far from peaceful. She was reviewing centuries of human military history, not as abstract lessons, but as practical guidance. Her fingers moved in subtle patterns, tracing movements that looked random but were actually muscle memory from thousands of hours of training. Combat techniques that had been refined through generations of human conflict, adapted, and improved through countless battles across Earth's violent history. The aliens saw weakness where there was actually restraint. They mistook preparation for surrender. Their entire understanding of combat was based on overwhelming physical superiority, natural weapons, and evolutionary advantages. The concept of winning through intelligence, adaptability, and tactical thinking was foreign to species that had never needed to develop such skills. As the preparation time wound down, the betting odds became increasingly lopsided. Some aliens were offering 100-to-1 odds against human survival, and still finding no takers on Katie's side. The few humans in the Academy either couldn't afford a bet or were smart enough to keep their mouths shut. Mitchell allowed himself a small smile as he watched the final preparations. The aliens were about to learn a lesson that human military instructors had been teaching for centuries. Never underestimate an enemy just because they don't look dangerous. The galaxy was about to discover what Earth had known for millennia. Sometimes the most dangerous warriors are the ones who don't look like warriors at all. The arena's holographic systems hummed to life, creating a perfect replica of a war-torn city. Buildings rose from the floor in geometric patterns, complete with shattered windows, collapsed walls, and debris scattered across twisted streets. The environment looked like something from humanity's own violent history. Urban warfare at its most brutal and chaotic. Weapon caches materialized at strategic points throughout the maze-like battlefield. Energy rifles, plasma grenades, force shields, and various alien weapon systems appeared in glowing containers. The message was clear. This wasn't just about natural abilities. Combatants were expected to use every advantage available to survive. The three alien champions entered the arena like they owned it. Grixtal moved with the fluid grace of a predator, his scales already shifting to match the concrete and metal surroundings. His reptilian head swiveled constantly, processing thermal signatures and movement patterns with senses that could detect prey from hundreds of meters away. Every step was calculated. Every movement spoke of millions of years of evolutionary perfection in the art of hunting and killing. Hive Death took to the air immediately, his four wings creating a sound like industrial machinery. His compound eyes scanned the battlefield in multiple spectrums simultaneously, cataloging every potential hiding spot and escape route. The insectoid warrior's natural armor gleamed under the arena's lighting, each piece of his exoskeleton designed by evolution to turn aside claws, fangs, and energy weapons. He moved through the air with mechanical precision, covering ground that would take terrestrial species minutes to traverse. Sharp Edge didn't hurry. The crystalline warrior simply walked forward with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. Energy crackled between his fingers as he formed and dismissed weapon after weapon, each one capable of cutting through starship armor. His entire body was a weapon, from his diamond-hard skin to his ability to project devastating energy attacks. He looked around the arena like a king surveying his domain. Then Katie entered, and the contrast was almost comical. She looked tiny in the massive space, dwarfed by the towering buildings and scattered debris. Her standard academy uniform seemed laughably inadequate compared to the natural armor and weapons of her opponents. She carried no visible weapons, had no obvious enhancements, and showed no signs of the confidence that marked true warriors. The crowd of alien spectators pressed against the viewing barriers, eager to witness what they expected to be a brief but educational demonstration of superior evolutionary design. Some of the younger cadets had never seen a human in combat before, and were curious to see how quickly their primitive tactics would fail against proper warriors. The countdown timer appeared in the air above the arena, its red numbers ticking down from 10. The three alien champions positioned themselves strategically, forming a triangle that would prevent any escape routes. They had studied the battlefield layout and identified optimal positions for a quick, decisive engagement. When the timer reached 0 and the signal sounded, the hunt began immediately. Grixtal activated his enhanced senses, scanning for heat signatures and movement. Hive Death climbed higher into the air for a better vantage point. Sharp Edge began systematically clearing the nearest buildings, his energy blades slicing through walls like paper. For exactly 3 seconds, their plan worked perfectly. They moved with coordinated precision, each covering their assigned sector, while maintaining communication through their species' natural abilities. The human was somewhere in the arena, and it was simply a matter of time before their superior senses located her. Then something impossible happened. Katie disappeared, not in a flash of light or through some technological device, but in the way that morning mist disappears when the sun rises. One moment she was visible near the arena center, and the next moment she simply wasn't there anymore. The aliens' enhanced senses, their thermal vision, their multi-spectrum analysis, none of it could locate the human who had been standing in plain sight moments before. Grixtal's head snapped back and forth, his tongue tasting the air for chemical traces. His thermal sensors showed nothing but background heat from the arena's systems. His motion detectors remained silent. It was as if the human had simply ceased to exist. Hive Death's compound eyes processed thousands of images per second, but none of them contained their prey. His flight pattern became more frantic as he searched angles that should have revealed any hiding spot in the arena. The insectoid's superior senses were telling him that nothing larger than a small rodent was moving anywhere in the combat zone. Sharp Edge stopped his systematic destruction and stood perfectly still, extending his crystalline senses to their maximum range. His species could detect energy signatures from kilometers away, But the arena might as well have been empty except for the three alien warriors searching in growing confusion. The crowd fell silent. This wasn't how combat worked. You couldn't just disappear without technology or natural camouflage abilities. The human had neither. Yet, somehow she had vanished from the most advanced sensor systems in the galaxy. That's when Hive Death crashed. The insectoid warrior simply dropped from the sky like a stone, his wings going silent mid-beat. His compound eyes rolled back as his body hit the arena floor with a sound like breaking glass. He didn't move again. The silence in the viewing area became absolute. Two alien champions remained, but their confidence had evaporated. Somewhere in the arena, a human was hunting them with methods they couldn't understand or counter. The question wasn't whether Katie could win anymore. The question was how she had turned the hunt around so completely that the predators had become the prey. What happened next wasn't a fight in any way the aliens understood fighting. It was something entirely different, a masterclass in human warfare that left the galaxy's most advanced warriors looking like amateurs who had never seen real combat. Sharp Edge moved through the arena with crystalline precision, his energy blades carving through walls and obstacles as he searched for his invisible opponent. Each strike was perfect, each movement calculated for maximum efficiency. His diamond-hard body reflected the arena's lights in dazzling patterns as he systematically destroyed potential hiding spots. The energy blade swept through the air where thermal sensors indicated a human should be, but cut nothing except empty space. Sharp Edge paused, recalibrating his sensors and extending his natural detection abilities to their maximum range. According to every system he possessed, the arena was empty except for him and the unconscious form of Hive Death. That's when the first stone hit him. It wasn't a sophisticated energy weapon or an advanced projectile system. It was literally just a chunk of concrete debris, launched from somewhere behind it with enough force to crack his crystalline skin. Sharp Edge spun around, energy crackling between his fingers as he prepared to unleash devastating firepower at his attacker. Nothing was there. Another stone struck him from a completely different direction, this time hitting a joint in his armor that shouldn't have been vulnerable to such primitive attacks. The impact sent hairline fractures spreading across his torso, compromising the structural integrity of armor that had withstood plasma cannon fire. Sharp Edge began firing energy blasts in every direction, his perfect tactical discipline dissolving into panic. Each shot illuminated the arena in brilliant flashes, but revealed nothing except empty buildings and scattered debris. His opponent was using the environment itself as cover in ways his species had never encountered. The third projectile wasn't stone at all. It was a piece of metal cable, weighted at both ends and thrown with precision that would have impressed ancient human warriors. The improvised bowler wrapped around Sharp Edge's legs, sending the crystalline giant crashing to ground in a cascade of shattered armor pieces. Grixtal heard his ally fall and moved to investigate, his reptilian senses on maximum alert. The Korthak warrior's thermal camouflage made him nearly invisible as he flowed between the arena's obstacles like liquid shadow. His claws extended fully, ready to tear apart whatever primitive human tricks were responsible for his companion's defeats. He never saw the tripwire. The cable stretched between two pieces of debris at ankle height, invisible to thermal sensors because it had been there long enough to match the ambient temperature. When Grixtal's foot caught it, the carefully balanced pile of rubble above him came crashing down with enough force to stun even his enhanced physiology. But that wasn't the end of the trap. As Grixtal struggled to free himself from the debris, a blinding flash erupted directly in front of his enhanced eyes. The improvised flashbang was nothing more than overcharged power cells from the weapon caches, but overwhelmed his sensitive vision completely. In the seconds while he was blind and disoriented, Katie struck. Not with energy weapons or advanced technology, but with techniques her ancestors had used to hunt mammoths and survive ice ages. A simple rear naked choke, applied with perfect technique, while her opponent was helpless, cut off blood flow to his brain within seconds. The alien spectators watched in stunned silence as their three champions lay unconscious on the arena floor. Each defeat had come not through superior strength or advanced weaponry, but through tactics so primitive they seemed almost insulting. Stones and cables, basic physics, and environmental awareness. Tools that predated spaceflight by thousands of years. Katie finally emerged from the shadows, where she had been moving like a ghost throughout the entire engagement. Her appearance shocked the crowd even more than her victories. She wasn't breathing heavily or showing signs of exhaustion. Her uniform was slightly dusty from crawling through debris, but otherwise she looked like she had just finished a light training exercise. The watching aliens began to understand something that chilled them to their cores. This human hadn't won through luck or trickery. She had won because she approached combat in ways her species had never needed to develop. While they had evolved natural weapons and armor, humans had learned to turn everything around them into weapons. Every piece of debris became a projectile. Every shadow became concealment. Every environmental feature became either an advantage to exploit or a trap to set. Katie had fought like her species always had, not by being stronger or faster or more naturally armed, but by being smarter and more adaptable than anything trying to kill them. The three alien warriors had brought millions of years of evolutionary advantages to the fight. Katie had brought something more dangerous. 10,000 years of human military innovation, passed down through generations of warriors who had learned that the deadliest weapon wasn't claws or energy blades. It was a human brain, applied to the problem of survival. The arena's timer display showed exactly 93 seconds when Katie Walsh finally stepped out of the shadows and stood in the center of the battlefield. Around her, three of the galaxy's most feared warriors lay unconscious on the cold metal floor. Grickstow's reptilian form was partially buried under debris, his chest rising and falling in steady breathing. Sharp-edged crystalline body had hairline cracks running through it, but his core system showed stable vital signs. Hive Death remained motionless where he had fallen, his compound eyes closed but his bio readings indicating he would recover fully. The most shocking thing wasn't that Katie had won. It was how she had won. Each alien warrior was alive, breathing, and would wake up with nothing worse than bruised egos and minor injuries. She could have killed them all easily in their vulnerable moments, but she had chosen restraint. In a galaxy where combat usually meant death or permanent injury, this level of precision control was almost incomprehensible. The viewing galleries remained silent for long moments. Thousands of alien cadets, instructors, and observers struggled to process what they had witnessed. Their entire understanding of warfare had been built on simple principles. The strongest survived, the best armed won. Natural advantages determine outcomes. Katie had shattered those principles so completely that many weren't sure what they had actually seen. A young Zephyrian cadet buzzed nervously to a companion. The human didn't even use the weapon caches. She fought with rocks and cables. His voice carried a confusion that echoed throughout the crowd. Why would someone ignore advanced energy weapons in favor of primitive tools that belonged in a museum? Katie looked up at the viewing galleries, her voice clear and steady as it carried through the arena's sound system. You spend generations breeding perfect warriors for specific jobs. Hunters, flyers, energy projectors. Each species evolved to do one thing extremely well. She gestured to the unconscious forms around her. We became warriors by learning to fight everything our world could throw at us. Ice ages, predators, diseases, each other, and most importantly, our own limitations. Her words hit the alien audience like physical blows. They had always seen their evolutionary advantages as insurmountable benefits. The idea that specialization could be a weakness had never occurred to species that had spent millions of years perfecting their natural abilities. We don't win because we're stronger or faster or more naturally armed, Katie continued, her voice growing stronger. We win because we never stop adapting. When you gave us rocks, we made tools. When you gave us hostile environments, we made homes. When you gave us impossible odds, we made victories. That's what humans do. We adapt. In the Academy's command center, Commander Daniel Brooks watched through multiple camera feeds as the implications of Katie's victory rippled through the alien observers. His weathered face showed no surprise, only quiet satisfaction. This was exactly what Earth's military leadership had hoped would happen when they sent their best candidates to the Galactic Academy. The betting pools that had been so active just minutes earlier quietly shut down their operations. Bookmakers across the Academy found themselves faced with an outcome that literally no one had predicted. A 93-second victory by a human using primitive tactics against three elite alien warriors? The odds had been so astronomical that no one had even bothered to calculate them. Brooks pulled up his communication console and sent a priority message back to Earth. Demonstration successful. Galaxy is paying attention. The response came back almost immediately from the Secretary of Defense. Outstanding. Phase 2 authorized. Within the first hour after the trial ended, something unprecedented happened. The Korthak Military Institute submitted a formal request for copies of human tactical training manuals. They were followed by the Zephyrian War College, then the Vorthian Combat Academy. By the end of the day, 17 different alien military institutions had made similar requests. The requests weren't casual academic interest. These were desperate attempts to understand combat methodologies that had proven devastatingly effective against their best warriors. The aliens were beginning to realize that their assumptions about human military capabilities had been dangerously wrong. Katie returned to her dormitory to find her quarters filled with transfer documents, commendation letters, and assignment orders. Advanced Command School wanted her immediately. Special Operations Division had fast-tracked her application. 3 different human military branches were competing for her services after graduation. But the most interesting message came from an unexpected source. The Galactic Defense Force, the multi-species military organization that protected the galaxy's core worlds, had submitted a formal recruitment offer. They wanted Katie to help develop new training programs that incorporated human tactical thinking into their existing military doctrine. The galaxy was learning that humanity's arrival in the galactic community wasn't just about trade agreements and diplomatic protocols. Earth had brought something far more valuable and dangerous to the cosmic stage. Warriors who could turn any disadvantage into victory through pure adaptability and determination. As news of the trial results spread through quantum communication networks, Earth's reputation began its rapid transformation. No longer was humanity seen as a minor species from a backwater world. They were now recognized as something far more concerning. A civilization that produced warriors who played by their own rules and won against impossible odds. The galaxy was finally taking humans seriously, and that was exactly what Earth's leaders had been waiting for. The real game was just beginning.